Chapter 1. The Scribe's Calling. The city of Jerusalem, in the days before foreign empires laid their full claim upon its streets, was a place where wisdom flourished among the elders, and the fear of the Lord was the beginning of all understanding. Among its inhabitants was a man named Jesus, son of Sirach, a scholar and scribe who had dedicated his life to preserving the teachings of his ancestors. From a young age, Sirach had been drawn to the teachings of the priests in the Temple of Solomon, where the law of Moses was read aloud and debated by wise men. His grandfather, a teacher of the law, had once told him, "To seek wisdom is to seek life itself. A man who walks without understanding is like a ship without a rudder, destined to be lost in the storm." Sirach took these words to heart. He spent his youth studying the scrolls of the Torah, listening to the words of the elders, and observing the ways of men, both the righteous and the wicked. He saw how the arrogant oppressed the poor, how the dishonest grew fat with stolen wealth, and how the foolish wasted their years in pursuit of vanity. One evening, while walking through the streets, he witnessed a merchant cheating a widow, demanding more than was just for a measure of grain. The woman pleaded, saying she had only a few coins, but the merchant scoffed. Sirach approached and said, "O merchant, does not the Lord see the balances in your hands? Do you think he does not weigh your heart as well? Woe to the man who builds his house upon deceit, for his foundation will crumble in the day of judgment." The merchant sneered, but others in the marketplace murmured among themselves, shamed by his actions. The widow was given her grain, and Sirach knew then that wisdom was not merely to be learned, but to be lived. Chapter 2. The Testing of Wisdom. Years passed, and Sirach grew in renown as a teacher. He gathered disciples who sought to understand the ways of righteousness, speaking to them in courtyards and along the temple steps. Yet his wisdom was not accepted by all. One day, a wealthy nobleman, known for his cunning and excess, came to test him. This man, Azariah of Hebron, had grown rich through deceitful trade and merciless dealings, caring only for his own gain. He approached Sirach in the temple and said, "Teacher, you speak of righteousness, yet tell me this, why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? If your wisdom is true, should not the man who cheats be punished, and the man who prays be rewarded?" Sirach looked at him and replied, "The farmer sows his seed, but the harvest does not come at once. The wicked flourish for a time, like the grass after rain, but when the sun rises in its strength, they wither away. But the righteous are like the olive tree, which stands through storms and yields fruit in its season. The Lord's justice is not bound by the passing of days, but in eternity, all will be weighed and judged." Azariah scoffed, but the people who listened pondered the truth in Sirach's words. Chapter 3. The Path of the Just. As Sirach continued to teach, he spoke of honoring one's parents, of avoiding pride, and of the value of humility. He warned against idle chatter, the dangers of lust, and the deception of wealth. He told his disciples, "My son, if you come to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for trials. Gold is tested in fire, and men of worth in the furnace of adversity. Do not grow faint in discipline, for the Lord humbles before he exalts." One of his students, Reuben, was a young man who had once been quick-tempered and reckless. He struggled to keep himself from anger, but under Sirach's guidance, he learned patience. One day, when he was insulted by a passerby, he clenched his fists but remembered his teacher's words, "A wise man overlooks an insult, but a fool is quick to wrath." Reuben chose silence instead of violence, and though the man mocked him, he felt a newfound strength in restraint. Chapter 4. A Legacy Preserved. Sirach's wisdom was not lost. Knowing that the world would change, he gathered his teachings into a great collection, writing them down so that future generations might learn from them. His grandson, also named Jesus, took these writings and translated them into Greek, ensuring that even those outside Israel could learn the ways of wisdom. His work would later be known as Ecclesiasticus or the Wisdom of Sirach, a guide to those who sought to walk in righteousness. But as time passed, many forgot the value of wisdom. When foreign rulers came, when new doctrines arose, Sirach's book was set aside by some, deemed unnecessary by those who wished for simpler truths. Conclusion: the everlasting call of wisdom. Though his book was removed from some traditions, the words of Sirach have endured. His teachings remind us that true honor is found not in wealth, but in righteousness. He showed that wisdom is not a possession, but a way of life. Even now, his voice echoes through time. Do not seek glory through deceit, nor strength through injustice. The wise walk securely, but the fool stumbles in his own pride. In the end, it is not the strong who will endure, but the righteous. Thus, the legacy of Sirach remains, not in the canon of every scripture, but in the hearts of those who seek wisdom. The Wisdom of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, was widely read and respected among Jews and early Christians. It was included in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of Hebrew scriptures, and even quoted by early church fathers. However, it was later excluded from the Jewish and Protestant biblical canons, categorized instead as part of the Apocrypha. The reasons for its removal are rooted in history, theology, and shifting religious perspectives. 1. Sirach and its connection to the Torah. The book of Sirach aligns closely with the wisdom literature found in the Torah and other Jewish writings, particularly Proverbs, Psalms, and Ecclesiastes. Sirach promotes moral instruction, reverence for God, and practical guidance for daily life, much like Deuteronomy teaches about obedience and blessings. However, unlike the Torah, which is traditionally understood to be revealed by God through Moses, Sirach is not considered prophetic. Instead, it is the work of a scholar reflecting on divine wisdom, much like the book of Proverbs, which attributes many of its sayings to King Solomon. This difference led to questions about its authority. 2. Exclusion from the Hebrew canon. By the end of the 1st century AD, Jewish scholars and religious leaders sought to establish a final canon of Scripture. This likely occurred at the Council of Jamnia, c. 90 AD, though details are debated. During this period, books written in Greek or not believed to have direct prophetic inspiration were excluded from the Hebrew Bible. Sirach, though originally written in Hebrew, was widely circulated in Greek, leading to its omission. 3. The Protestant Reformation and final removal. Sirach remained part of the Septuagint and was included in the Latin Vulgate, the Bible used by the Roman Catholic Church. However, during the Protestant Reformation, 16th century, reformers such as Martin Luther argued that only books included in the Hebrew Bible should be considered divinely inspired scripture. Additionally, some of Sirach's teachings, such as the emphasis on good works and righteousness, seem to conflict with the Protestant doctrine of solified faith alone, the belief that salvation comes through faith rather than works. As a result, Protestant traditions removed Sirach from the biblical canon, classifying it among the Apocrypha, while Catholic and Orthodox traditions retained it. Though Sirach was removed from some biblical canons, its wisdom remains timeless. It reflects the ethical and moral teachings of the Torah, offering guidance on honor, humility, righteousness, and reverence for God. Its exclusion does not diminish its value. Rather, it serves as a reminder that wisdom is not bound by canons, but by those who seek to live righteously. Today, Sirach continues to inspire those who read it, echoing across centuries. Do not say, "I have enough wisdom," for the fear of the Lord is greater than knowledge. Blessed is the one who trusts in him, for he shall never be shaken. Thus, whether within the canon or beyond, the words of Sirach endure as a testament to the eternal pursuit of wisdom.